Hello everyone. So there was quite a lot to film with this cake, so it is going to be one of 3 parts. I had to let you know I have bought some new tins. Now I did an experiment not long ago where I tested out using PME spray and it just didn't work for me. There was lots of comments and mixed reviews using the release spray. It works for some and not for others. I appreciate all the suggestions. I am tempted to try it again, just lining the bottom and spraying the sides. I think one of the main factors of it not working was due to the depth of the tin. The 8-inch tins that I used were the aluminium PME 4-inch deep one. They work just fine with a vanilla sponge because they rise really high, but if you're not putting a lot of batter in each tin, then it's better to use a smaller size. So even though I don't really have enough room in my cupboards, I decided to purchase the same kind of tin that I have for my 6-inch. My 6-inch stainless steel tins are probably the best thing I've ever bought. I found the exact same tins, but they are from a different seller. I will leave both of them in the comments. They are just 2 inches deep and the red velvet sponges came out perfect. So anyway, for this cake on day 1, I baked the sponges and then I cut out all the letters. I added a little bit of Tylo powder to the sugar paste, rolled it out and then used these Wilton letters. Aged to perfection will be going along the baseboard. You can probably guess what kind of cake it's going to be from that. But on the top of the cake, the customer wanted it to say Happy 30th Birthday Joe. However, that amount of letters wasn't going to fit on top of the cake using the same letter cutters. So I had to use my big brain and think outside of the box. I decided to shorten it slightly to just Happy 30th Joe, and I thought I'm going to have to use the dreaded Tappits. But you will be pleased to know that I think I have the hang of this now. So I took some advice from Charlotte Cakes because she's an expert at using Tappits. I rolled it out really thin and then I put it in the oven. When you put fondant in the oven, it's basically speeding up the process of the fondant setting. So if you use a really low heat, about 50 degrees, leave it in there for 10 to 15 minutes, take it out of the oven and it will set really firm. So I cut the hardened fondant into strips and then into little squares. I still wasn't sure if it was going to work because it's never worked for me, but I tapped it on the side and the letter released. I couldn't believe it. I tapped out most of the letters, but it didn't work every single time. And I don't think they're going to last very long because it does look like the Tappits are about to snap in the middle because of how much I was banging it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in part 2. Now this is going to be a carved cake, which means I do have to cut the sponges into shape. Every time I make a cake, I try and improve on it. So the last time I made a barrel cake, it wasn't in the shape of a barrel, it was just straight. So I thought I'm going to carve into it. It wasn't the customer's idea. I suggested it, and then when I asked what flavour she wanted, I was thinking, please don't say red velvet, and she said red velvet. Obviously. I just find that this sponge is a lot more crumbly than, say, a vanilla. But I was working with frozen sponges, so it didn't matter too much. I just had to work fairly quickly before it defrosts. I haven't made many carved cakes. I'll say this is about my 3rd or 4th one. So I do believe with any shape, you should look at it as a 2D shape first. So do the sides, and then when you're happy with that shape, then you turn it around and do the other 2 sides. So that's what I did, and I was pretty happy with the shape, so it was time to move on to the crumb coat. Now, some very exciting news. I think I have cracked the ganache code. So I seen a different way to make ganache, and I gave it a go, and oh my god, what a difference. I'm not going to get too excited yet, because it might just be beginner's luck. So I'm going to try a cake just covering it in ganache. So instead of doing a buttercream cake, I'm going to colour the ganache and see if it works just as well. Look how nice and smooth it is. It just glided onto the cake. It's not a different recipe. It's the exact same ingredients as what I'd normally use, but it was a different method. So the problem I always have with ganache is that it sets too quickly, but this stayed nice and soft the whole time I was using it. So fingers crossed I have found the best way. I'm going to use it a couple of more times and then I will share the recipe with you. So that's it for now. I let the cake chill in the fridge in the box overnight. I will trim the top off tomorrow and cover it in fondant. It does look much more of a barrel than it did last time, so come back tomorrow for part 3. Now it's time to cover the barrel-shaped cake in fondant. I wanted the wood to look as realistic as possible, so I decided to mix different colours. I used 3 different shades of brown. So this is the Wilton Chestnut, Colour Splash Dark Brown, and I think it was Pro Gel Normal Brown. I was actually really impressed with how it turned out. Because I only used a tiny bit of the dark brown, you could still see a lot of the lighter colours mixed together. I think if I had have added any more of the dark brown, then it would have just overpowered it and I would have lost the nice contrast between the light and dark. Also, I added the wood grain effect just using the back of my drizzling tool. I do have a wood fondant embosser, which I used last time, but I don't think it looks as realistic. I'll show you at the end of this video the barrel cake that I made last time, and you'll have to let me know which one looks better. The customer didn't want anything on the front of the cake, so it's just going to have mini bottles of rum on the top and writing on the board. Now, because the cake isn't straight, I did struggle a bit shaping the fondant, so I pre-cut the wood strips with a wider part in the middle and then more narrow towards the top and bottom. In my head, I thought that would work, but it wasn't quite meeting at the bottom, so there is quite a few little gaps at the bottom with the ganache showing, but I wasn't too worried because I knew I was adding these black strips. I probably would have added the black strip at the bottom a little bit higher up if it wasn't for those gaps, but never mind, it still looked okay, I think. And now here I am once again trying to match the colour of the ribbon to the cake. Why do I always struggle with this bit? Always reminds me of trying to match the colour of your outfit to your bag and shoes. I've never been good at making those decisions. Tell me which one you would have picked out of those 4 colours. This is the barrel cake that I made last time. I do think this one is a big improvement, but I do love the edible ice on the other one. Show me your barrel cakes in the comments.